Joining me now to discuss, Bloomberg's co-host and crypto analyst Ben Swann, and Olga Felmeier, the CEO of Smart Valor. Olga, let's start with you. What do you make of these continued jumps by Bitcoin? They kind of seem to coincide with either tweets by Musk or announcements from his company, from Tesla.
Yeah, that's true. In fact, this is nothing new for Bitcoin. As you know, Sarah, we run a cryptocurrency exchange here out of Switzerland. And what we see is actually, that there are kind of like two groups of people. So on one side, there are millions of traders that trade every day, and they're hungry for good news. So whenever something like this comes out, this is a buy and trade sign, right? So massive activity on all sides, spot markets, option markets, futures. And on the other side, there are people that are warming up to the idea to get exposure to digital assets such as Bitcoin. And they're kind of like, a lot of them are watch and see, and they're waiting for this perfect moment to buy and hoping for another dip, when the price goes back. But with each of this news, Elon Musk, Mastercard, this week was amazing, right? Amazon, Tesla, Twitter is considering option investing treasury money into Bitcoin. So with each of this news, those people that prepared to buy for the first time kind of realize maybe the dip is not coming, maybe it's going to be too late. So they start to buy. And this is what drives the Bitcoin price further up and up.
Especially with the weakening dollar. Olga, you did mention Mastercard. Ben, I want to ask you about that news that's now going to begin allowing cardholders to transact in certain cryptocurrencies on its network. It's the latest company to embrace these digital assets. What do you make of this? What do we know?
Yeah, it feels like it's 2017 all over again, right? Everything is going to the moon. Everybody's getting involved. Mastercard, as you mentioned, is now a part of this. They were already working, by the way, with WireX and BitPay. But yeah, Mastercard now says they're going to allow digital currencies to be purchased directly. It used to be that they had to be converted over to those currencies, to fiat currencies, before they would process payments. They're saying you're not going to have to do that anymore. It's really not surprising. Look, the bottom line is financial service industries were going to move this way at some point. The question is, and I think this is what's really important for those not the institutional investors, but the retail investors who want to be involved in it, is that these big companies are all getting into Bitcoin. Now, that doesn't mean that that's the only coin that's going to emerge ultimately, but that is the one that is going to continue to climb. And so I think Olga's right when she says there's a bit of FOMO right now, there's fear of missing out for those retail investors who say, wait a minute, everybody's going there, I got to get in too. And that's why you're seeing it jump up as much as it is. But there is a lot of excitement around a lot of different projects right now and a lot of different coins. And so it's not just Bitcoin, but certainly as Bitcoin goes, so goes the world.
It is, and it sounds like, much like you're saying, a lot of companies are jumping on this Bitcoin bandwagon, so to speak. Do we know the details of how it's actually going to work, though?
Well, in terms of Mastercard, essentially what it allows you to do is they'll process your payments if you have Bitcoin and you can utilize Bitcoin. So what you don't have to do is you don't have to take your Bitcoin, cash it out, and turn it into a fiat currency in order for something to be processed through Mastercard. They'll directly process it. It's similar to what you had this conversation the other day about Tesla and Bitcoin being used to purchase a Tesla, right? Rather than saying, oh, I have Bitcoin, I'm going to buy a Tesla. I'm going to go to the bank, I'm going to convert it into US dollars, and I'll use those US dollars to buy a Tesla. Mm-hmm. Instead of doing that, Tesla just says, give us your Bitcoin and you can pay for it that way. It's the same idea here where Mastercard says rather than having to convert to a fiat currency, we'll just accept it directly from you.
Well, it's interesting because there is a lot of volatility with Bitcoin, especially these days, surging. And then some people think that it might go down, even though we're seeing record highs that we didn't even expect to see until later this year. Olga, I want to get to the latest of Bank of New York Mellon. This is the nation's oldest bank. It's making the leap here, also introducing Bitcoin, a market for cryptocurrencies. Now, the custody bank said Thursday it will hold transfer and issue Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies on behalf of its assets management clients. Is this a step forward for Bitcoin?
Yes, indeed. It's a huge step forward, in fact. And, it's not because Bank New York Mellon is the first bank to offer this service, but it's basically due to the fact that it's the world's largest custodian, right? It holds around 40 trillion assets. And it's also a huge investment bank with 2 trillion assets under management. And now imagine those 2 trillion assets. Like, just think about it. If within several years, 2, 3 years, 1% of their clients are going to hold Bitcoin or buy for 1% of their assets, that will be already 20 billion assets. So what does it mean for such a small and young asset? It's huge. And also interesting, is that, well, it's investment bank, right? And the service is going to be offered to asset management clients, right? So this is people with, quite significant amount of money invested. So this is not retail people. And so what is interesting here is that we see now this, mass adoption of cryptocurrencies coming from 2 sides, right? On one side, companies like PayPal and Square, and now on the other side, those massive investment banks getting into the game. So it means a lot, and I'm very happy about this development.
Do you think other banks are going to follow suit?
Absolutely. This is, kind of creating, like, each new bank that announced some kind of activity in this sector. This is creating, peer pressure, where the boards of other banks are like, hey guys, what are we doing with digital assets? What's your plan? And now everybody needs to come up with a plan. And this is where I think, time to market is very critical here. And so this is also a place where we play a role, offering infrastructure for banks to offer cryptocurrency services.